Hi everyone, let's talk about Renegade. So, my interest in this game, first and foremost, I'll admit, is because it was designed by Ricky Royal, and I've been watching Ricky's channel for quite a while. I'll put a link to it up there somewhere, wherever cards go. He does amazing playthroughs, you may well know. A lot of solo playthroughs. I don't know if I would ever have learned Mage Knight way back when if it wasn't for Ricky's series, amongst many other games as well. But yeah, when I knew that he'd designed a game, I definitely wanted to try it out, and I've really enjoyed it. It's a really satisfying puzzle. It couldn't be much more different of a game than something like Mage Knight, but it did remind me of that kind of sense of, you've got these cards laid out in front of you that just give you a vast array of options. And although, your aims are pretty clear that, okay, these sparks are building up, we need to get rid of them, we need to have these contaminants, we need to have these replicants in these places by this time, we know how long we've got until we've played our cards, we've got 3 rounds basically. These are the symbols that are available to us right now, and between us, how are we going to achieve this? How can we do this? Just staring at, the objective you need to get to by the end of your turn, or how much you can achieve by the end of your turn. How are you going to combine these? How are you going to buy new things from the hack shack? How are you going to convert the things around you? Are you going to move them around so they're in a better position for another player or for your next turn if you're playing solo? Or, I can use replicants to turn this into this, which I can then shift over to you. I can move over here. Oh, we've put an uplink here now, which means on my turn I can move this token around, or I can push these sparks together. Not so they'll make a guardian, but so now there's a load of sparks together, so I'm the big infection virus guy, so on my turn I'm just going to stomp around with my viruses on all of these sparks that you've put in a row. It leads to some brilliant combos of things happening and some great cooperation. But yeah, the time just spent just looking at these symbols and just, how am I going to do this? And admittedly, in the playthrough I used quite an easy SMC in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, as these things start piling up and you need to do an impossible number of things on your turn, it's in that sense of the times I'd spent playing something like Mage Knight, where you were just staring at these cards, okay, this isn't ideal for what I need to do this round, but then after some thinking and some jiggling around, and maybe you got you just something clicked at the last minute, and now you have found the perfect combination of doing all of these things. That it's so satisfying when that happens. It's so satisfying just solving that puzzle and knowing that there was probably another way that you could have done it as well, a way maybe you could have improved next time. You'll be thinking about these things in future turns that, oh, if I'd done this in the first round of it, I would have set myself up really nicely. And yeah, that kind of knowledge and going back to it means that you can only improve in the future, in future plays. And yeah, it definitely gets a lot harder, not only for the special rules that get added to the SMC, but the number of sparks that get added in the rolls at the start of each turn mean that, in a more conventional co-op sense, in something like Pandemic, where you can see these problem spots arising and know that although we've got this thing that we were all working towards, now all of these sparks are clumping up, and maybe we're going to have to just take a turn or two off to just race around and try and stop them completely overwhelming us. Because yeah, as soon as you let a guardian or two out onto the board, it can just start snowballing, because you roll that space, or maybe after the countermeasure's been resolved and some sparks move around, they just happen to go where some guardians are. The flares start going off instead of more sparks, which means, multiple flares get added. They go into spaces that make more guardians. Maybe they're firewalls, which mean now the spaces are blocked off. That really works in a really satisfying way as well. Well, not satisfying, in a kind of terrifying way. Because, yeah, you can kind of see the game crumbling around you because you just let one little space, you just ignored it and thought, well, how are we ever going to roll that? And then that space just obviously keeps coming up again and again and again. It's, yeah, a really nice balance to just having to do the objectives, because there is this, ever increasing, potentially overwhelming threat that is always upon you. So yeah, there's a lot of variability in the game as well, just in the way that the board's set up. You take these, they have to be rotated in the same orientation, so the numbers are the same way up, but you take turns placing these out. Partitions have to be adjacent to 2 other partitions as you place them. But yeah, the board layout is going to be quite different every time. There are avatars for each of the colours of server, but there's also an alternate one on the other side. There is also a special purple avatar. I haven't played as him because it says, leave off him for a while, because he's got special purple tokens that he can put down that count as anything. There is a ton of Hack Shack cards. I only played a solo game, but there is quite a lot that we didn't see in there, and the order that they come out, as well as the order in the cards that you've got come out, that are going to determine what you get to buy. Sometimes it's just going to be perfect and you get to just replace your entire deck with loads more wild things, but sometimes you'll have to be more picky and just get the things that you desperately need right then, maybe for their execute actions. And there are quite a few different SMCs with their own special rules, lots of different countermeasure cards that, when that's all combined, it will give you a very different direction to go in every time, I think. I've only played it a few times so far, so, can't speak for, I've played it 100 times, it's been different every single time. In those few times, it's been very different, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of surprises coming up in future games as well. And there's stuff that we haven't even touched. Like I mentioned, the purple avatar that works differently to the rest of them. You can play an advanced version of the board where all of the servers are kind of spread across all of the different places, which would certainly change things up in a way that kind of worries me for the difficulty of it, maybe. But yeah, it's another thing to shake things up and change things around, and yeah, keep the game fresh in the situation that you need to be solving. I feel like the puzzle. Yes, when we played the tutorial, it was maybe because I'd already watched Rado's video to get a leg up on how to play. It was a little bit easy, and we found ourselves, just kind of standing around wanting a bit more to do. But then as soon as you start escalating on those SMCs, yeah, it gets pretty difficult pretty quickly, especially if you're not on top of the sparks. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I really love that puzzly aspect, and really love how different the games are going to be. I'll say it's not been without issues. The rulebook, it's definitely comprehensive, but we found it really hard to learn the game from the rulebook, to the point where the first time that we tried it, after about half an hour of setting up the game and going through the walkthrough and stuff, we just couldn't get to grips with it at all. And I did in the end, after going to Rado's video and then getting a sense for it, and then going back and starting to play through some turns on my own, that's when it all started to click. And when it does click, it's very simple. It's just that the rulebook layout, or the way it was explaining it, wasn't very good for us at all. And the player aid, it's for teaching you the game, I don't think it's very good at all. Once you know what it is, it's a fantastic player aid. It's once you realise, it's a brilliant reminder, but not a great teacher. But it's meant to be a reminder anyway, isn't it? And I'll say as well that this is something that Rado mentioned, so I won't echo it too much. But I would agree that the number of code words in this, the number of things that are very nice for immersion and for adding to the world, make it just add to the difficulty to learning the game. And yeah, when you're actually in the middle of the game, you're not saying to each other, okay, put a replicant down here and and put a virus here, and okay, I've got myself a neural hub. It does, maybe it's just us, but it does go down to, okay, we need a green here, and we need a yellow here, and we need this here. Yeah, it was another obstacle in learning the game, because I think once you are there, it's a very elegant, smooth system that is easy to. It's not easy to do well, but it's easy to get to grips with the system itself. But yeah, the initial hurdle of getting to it was quite difficult for us anyway in the very first place. But that is the criticism that I would have of it, really. The actual gameplay itself, I thought, was fantastic, and I can't wait to try more of these different combinations of things, and hope to improve and manage to beat Mother, which is the hardest SMC, but beat some of the harder ones just in general, and not stick with the easiest one. But that was just for the playthrough, honest. Anyway, that's my thoughts, but yeah, disregard them and go to the playthrough and see for yourself whether it will be one you would like to check out. that's Renegade. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye.